What's happening, everybody? Thank you for being here at All Access Live with Kevin Rankin. I would love it if you do me a favor. Do me a solid and go to youtube.com/@accesskevin. And if you've not done so, please subscribe to this channel. If you subscribe, you'll be able to chat with us here on the show. You can go back and you can look at all the previous 350 other episodes of amazing guests. I just had phenomenal guests like Kip Winger on the show and Rod Morgenstein, phenomenal drummer. You can also become members. And if you become a member, you get access to certain episodes with private guests, people like Kelly Keegy from Night Ranger, an adult video superstar, Ginger Lynn. And so you can become a member, you can get all that access, but for no charge at all. You can subscribe to the channel, look at the episodes, get notified about up and coming guests. Thursday, March 6th, I've got Marina V, an award-winning, amazing pianist, classical composer, and also a rock composer. She has a new record called Symphony and Metal out with guitarists from Kiss, Bruce Kulick, Dave Ellefson, phenomenal award winner from Megadeth, and lots of great other releases. So Marina V, March 6th, and then Eva Gardner from Pink will be on the show March 10th. So you can get access to all those people just by subscribing, coming back here on YouTube. Also, my amazing sponsor, 5 Star Guitars, is based in Beaverton, Oregon. And if you didn't know this, there is no sales tax if you order online from Oregon. So if you go to 5starguitars.com, you want to buy guitars or get accessories or maybe get repairs done, they will be glad to assist you. They were voted the #1 music merchandiser in North America at the North American National Association of Music Merchants this year. So 5 Star Guitars right here. 5starguitars.com using the promo code of All Access Live is going to save you 15% when you check out. So check them out. Make sure that you let them know that I sent you, and they would appreciate that. So my next guest is a longtime friend. He's a phenomenal songwriter. He's a funny dude all the way from the UK, and we've known each other in several different capacities. He's talking to us from a pretty interesting location. So let me bring you Julian Shah-Tayler. Julian, good to see you.
Hello.
Yes, there he is.
I see what you're asking. Is that better?
That's much better. I thought we were just going to do the whole interview sideways. I thought that was what was planned. I love it.
That's my my special. That's my USP. I do everything sideways.
Like most musicians, man, you got to just do something a little bit different, right?
Exactly. So this cross is most appropriate today because my daughter is at choir practice in All Saints Church in Pasadena. They're doing a Shrove Tuesday gathering. So I kind of had to, this 5 o'clock, I'm normally with her. So I made time for you, my friend.
I appreciate that. You had mentioned that if you burn, you break out into, here, I'm going to adjust my light a little bit so I'm not so washed out. Thanks,
if I do. In fact, we've established already that the Wi-Fi is being heavenly assisted.
That's well, earlier it looked solid, and I think you were in high favor from some higher being. But if for some reason you drop out, you certainly come back, and I'll use that opportunity to tell people to go to julianshah-tayler.com so they can find all things promotional wise. But you and I first met in a capacity on this cruise ship in the 80s cruise. And we've done since then probably 40 gigs together, I think.
It's been a lot. Yeah. I mean, because, Flock of Seagulls are our favorite 80s band. I know your catalog inside out now.
You at least know all the songs that most people don't want to hear live, and then a few that they do, right?
One of my friends, because I interviewed Mike, the interview is still yet to surface because I haven't had time to edit it, and I interviewed Mike, and one of my friends offered him this question. It's like, when was it you discovered exactly how far away Iran was?
The joke never gets old, man. Yeah, I get it a million times. If we're gonna take the piss, right? And you guys could do that with each other, but you're obviously from the UK. You want to talk a little bit about your sourcing from England?
Yeah, I mean, I moved to LA 17 years ago, but I lived in London for 13 years prior to that.
Okay.
And most of my musical influences are English. I don't know. I mean, Leo. Obviously, Leo's from former Soviet Russia, and his influences were more 90s, they just don't coincide with mine at all. It's really funny. Like I listened to all the 80s stuff from boarding school.
Oh, did you go to boarding school? Well, I
I
guess
went to,
everybody.
everybody in England goes to boarding school, you
Right.
know.
Yeah. What part of the UK were you from before London?
So I went to boarding school in Durham Cathedral Choir School, which is right in the north of England near Scotland. It's not near Scotland in English terms, but in American terms, it's basically half the size of California. So,
Yeah.
so it's quite near Scotland, and it was the template for Hogwarts.
Really?
Hmm.
You absolutely came from Harry Potter land then.
I came from literal Harry Potter then.
You don't have the accent from the north though at all. You sound more London.
No,
You're
no,
posh.
no. I mean, I wouldn't say posh. I'd just say I have a blank English accent, uninfluenced by any regional dialect. My grandmother was Welsh,
Okay.
and her big mission in life was to make sure that I wasn't tied to the Yorkshire, because we lived in Yorkshire,
Okay.
and the Yorkshire accent's a bit like this.
Yeah.
So she didn't want me speaking like this because you can't really be understood by people if you live from the north of England and you go somewhere else. If I was in California, it would take you a while to understand what I'm talking about.
You definitely it's funny that Caleb in the chat here says it's Tuesday, isn't it? He's been working
No,
on
it's
his
Tuesday.
Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah, he's impressed with the with your access and with your accent. Sorry, you actually did the voice as well. So have you done VO or acting at all?
I No, not really. I mean, I've
No.
been in a lot of movies, but not as an actor. I've been an extra in about 20 films, and then I've written the music for films, and then been in the band on stage in that capacity. But I haven't. I mean, I would act. I'm writing a TV script, or I've
Are you?
written a TV script. I'm in talks at the moment to get it developed finally again, because the pandemic put paid to those plans, and now it's all sort of back in action. So I'm really excited about that. But that's not really what we're here to talk about. But
We're
you know,
not.
it's
No, you want to go right to it, man? We want to talk a little bit about the brand new record coming out this week.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Honne Tatame, which is a Japanese phrase about duality. That's the name of the album. It's coming out on Friday. It is part conceptually of a double, really, with the previous album. The previous album, Elysium, which got me a lot of attention, and people really liked it. It was about a relationship that I had with my young lady at the time, which then subsequently, the Elysium album is about falling in love and being wonderfully engaged with that person, and the beauty of the sensation of being, besotted with every move and every breath that you're with. And then we fell apart. So that's the new album.
Yeah. Oh,
It's part two of the sad
how,
story.
how long did that take
How long did it take? It was 5 years.
to do the record or to fall out of love?
Well, it's funny actually, because some of the songs on the new album were written during the relationship.
As the
And
demise was happening?
well, there were certain times within that time when we were sort of not having a good time, and everything was kind of going wrong. But to put them on the album, which was still very full of hope. I mean, that album was a hopeful album about being in love. So I didn't want
Right.
to put things that would sour that impression. So once it had all fallen apart, I thought, okay, well, we'll put the ones that were in the middle of that process on this new album, because they will fit this sort of like breakup, depressed,
Mm.
negative vibe.
But there was a promotion that I saw. Let me see what this said. You said this is a self-therapy album, the catharsis before the storm. I need to believe in love. I need to hold hope. I need to exercise those snakes. That's this album.
Sure. Yeah.
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 That's exactly. I wrote that, didn't I?
You
Yeah.
did.
Right. Yes. I guess I must have thought about it a bit. I write these, little, I don't know, bullshit blurbs to send to people, and then I completely forgot what they say. So thank you for reading.
Well, uh, you know, I mean, I would think relationships in general, right, are very important in the creative space where they're perfect for creation of lyrics and poetry and books. The sort of fanaticism or the fantastic part of a new relationship, it's explainable, right? I mean, it's great that you're creative and you can put that down in song. Uh, when you want to shout from the rooftops, that you've got this new exciting love. And uh, as you get older and you've been through relationships, you see some people become pessimistic, right? Because you know that that part of a relationship might wane.
Hmm.
And
Not might wane. It always wanes.
well,
That's the thing.
okay,
You can't maintain that sort of honeymoon period of a relationship for all time. You can grow together. I accept that, but you
yeah,
can't maintain that initial rush of
yeah,
butterflies and all that stuff. I don't think anyway. I mean,
yeah. Well, the tricky thing, right, is trying to maintain something that's substantial and fulfilling, and for both parties, right? And I mean, I think it's the same thing with a band or with a new job or anything else like that. That um, as you get older, instead of becoming jaded, where you don't have hope and perspective that a relationship could hold what you need. I think that's what I gather, at least by reading about this new record. That there's a pursuit in something deeper. Am I right?
I mean, it's self-reflexive in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm a very self-reflexive person, whether that comes across or not. I mean, I think a great deal about my own part in any dissolution or in any creation. So it's a bit more navel gazing, I guess, to look at all the various stages and see how I could have contributed to the mistakes and the fall
Mm.
aparts and all these sort of things. But I mean, I'm not an angry person. There's one song on the album that's very, very angry, but it's not about a female relationship. It's about a male relationship, and that was. I mean, I felt the irony is, I had a few relationships that have fallen apart quite badly, and I don't feel angry or disappointed at the person involved. Whereas I had a 25-year male friendship that very much angered me when that fell apart. And I don't really want to go into great details on this interview necessarily about the specifics, but you can listen to the song "Malicious Intent" and you'll get the idea that I'm
Mm.
pretty cross.
I want to respect the fact that you don't want to, but no, we're going to deep dive. I want you. No, I'm kidding. We don't have to. Yeah. Uh,
It's a guy that I worked with for 25 years and helped a great deal financially and put him into bands that I was in and nurtured him in a lot of situations and supported him, protected him from legal stuff and
mm,
really, and he then ended up dating my ex-wife who he knows hates me. So that was a really low blow, and that
yeah.
is exactly what happened. So you drew it out of me, and that it's actually easy to tell that story because writing the song has got me through the poison of the sentiment I have towards it. But disgusting, snaky behavior. Like
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed, and
Yeah. That's a
that
violation.
that that can rob you of your hope about relationships more than a intersexual relationship, a
Sure.
sexual relationship, because we never had anything like that. But the disappointment obviously is quite raw and forthright.
I think, well, we've all been there, at least where you put your loyalty in someone, and that ultimate loyalty has been completely violated. And yeah, I know that it would easily make a lot of people be guarded and wall new relationships off, right? Where you don't allow yourself the opportunity to get closer to someone. How easy is it for you to develop new relationships, and both not just romantic relationships, but just friendships?
I it's very easy. I find it's you have to every situation you find yourself in, you have to just tear your heart open and be hopeful and believe that because everybody is different and
Yeah,
everything disappoints you or surprises you in different ways because nobody's perfect. I'm sure that in every relationship I've had, their expectations of me wasn't met in some way.
yeah,
Even if I was the perfect me, the
sure,
perfect me does not provide the perfect presentation or expectation of somebody else. And as nobody is capable of being all things to all people. And to find somebody that is, open to you in the most, beautiful and trusting way, that's a wonderful situation. So I trust people massively. I mean, have I been disappointed by people? Yes, but I've been disappointed by so many people
Yeah,
that I just have to have hope that not everybody's going to disappoint me in that way.
sure. You don't think all people, somebody can be all things to all people? You disappoint me. I
Well,
really,
aside from you, Kevin, of course,
okay,
and
that's the thing.
you and Chris Olivas. I mean,
Oh,
both of
hold
you.
on a second. Hold on.
I know you look up to him a great deal, but I think you're getting as good as him at being perfect to all people.
Yeah, like I've gotten all things drums and otherwise from Chris
Yes,
for sure.
exactly.
But you mentioned that you
Chris
weren't
is our
gonna
guru, right?
you told me that we weren't gonna bring him up because it was gonna make me feel insecure, but that's okay. Yeah. Uh,
Mission
yeah,
accomplished.
yes. We, um, so you mentioned a couple of names, people that might have seen Julian Shaw-Tayler outside the scope of both the Singularity and your Bowie tribute and some other projects that you've got involved. Strange Love is how we first met, the Strange Love Depeche
Mhm.
Mode experience. You mentioned Chris Olivas, who has been a dear friend of mine for 30 years, almost like 25 years.
30.
Actually,
Goodness.
25 years, or yeah, even more than that. Uh, Played with Berlin for a long time. He's obviously been with Strangelove for some time. You mentioned Leo Lugansky, the
Mhm.
singer. How does it feel to just always be in Leo's shadow? Is that tough?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, it is. It's
yeah,
very. I mean, it's irritating in some ways because it's like, and I'm not. I know that was meant as a sort of, slightly a joke, but I love Leo.
yeah.
He's brilliant. He's a brilliant performer and a
Sure.
great guy. But yeah, I mean, I am a front man. I'm not a side guy. So
Right.
yes, it's tricky to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it for 10 years, so I'm clearly able.
Has it
But
been that long?
it's a really interesting discussion. I mean, I was thinking of doing a podcast or at least a piece about being A, in a tribute band, and B, sort of second tier tribute band member, because it's very strange to me. It is legitimately an ego challenge, and
Yeah.
I have a huge ego, so I understand where my frailties lie there. Sometimes I come off stage and I'm just like, why am I here? And sometimes I think that was wonderful, and look, Leo was great, and everybody was really enjoying themselves. But it does happen,
Can I
and,
agree
and
with
I
you on a couple of things? Yeah. I mean, first, yes, the ego for sure, hands down. You may have one of the largest I know, and two,
definitely,
you said, "Why am I here?" I oftentimes think that when I watch Strangelove, I'm like, "Why is he up there?" But uh,
yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, you've got
I mean, I do hide in the corner,
yeah,
make sure nobody looks at me.
no, you've got phenomenal frontman moves, and so if you weren't there, you could definitely hold your own for sure. All jokes aside, there are five really unique personalities in that band, and I
Mhm.
feel like now the sincerity comes. I feel like all of you guys have become like family to me. We've done a
Oh,
lot together the last couple of
we
years, and
we feel the same way. We feel the
okay.
same way. I mean, you, Gordon, Pando. I mean, Mike is a little bit more to himself, isn't he?
Mhm.
But you, Gordon, Pando. I mean, you guys are the loveliest people to travel with. So we appreciate that. And it's not the same with all bands. I mean, it's quite a good chemistry, isn't it? The Strange Love
Yeah,
flock
I love the
chemistry.
pairing. Yeah, and like I feel like I know your catalog quite well. It was great to get to watch you at the Rickshaw in Vancouver a couple weeks ago because you got a
Oh,
lot on your
thank you.
set, so I got to see it more, more of the catalog and see the personalities flex a little bit more. But you didn't have Chris there either, so it allowed you guys to shine a little bit without bombastic drums there as well. But it's that. Um, but I mean,
We would love for you to have performed with us, Kevin. You know that.
yeah, you know what? It was really fun actually to be in the audience, to get to watch that. And, one thing that I know about the band is that you've developed a really rabid fan base. There are a lot of people that may peripherally watch you and feel like they're more a part of the band, even though they're just at the shows and buying merchandise. I know you guys were just in Parker, Colorado, and the Denver contingent is massive. You've got a big crowd of people that have supported you guys from the 80s cruise and from all the
The
touring.
sounds.
Yeah, in the sands, exactly, in Cancun now. So uh, when you have these little pockets of cities that you go to, have you felt like and I would imagine I know this answer, but that fan base is equally as supportive in your other adventures. Are they then anticipating the new release from Julian? Are they anticipating the new Bowie gigs? And has it been
Yeah,
supported that way?
I'm very lucky in that sense. I mean, obviously one of the reasons why I find it great doing Strangelove is because a lot of people that see, I mean, we used to open up with Bowie for Strangelove a lot more often, but a lot of people who watch that become, aware of the original material, that's where my heart is. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what I want to do. That's
sure.
what I want to do when I grow up, right? And they will buy the record and they will be very inspired and they will love it and they will be avidly following me in everything I do, and it is thanks to Strangelove and to the Bowie project that has happened, because if it was just me on the side, just the guy in the dark next to Leo, then I couldn't maintain that. It would be bad for my mental health,
Yeah,
going back to what we were talking about before.
sure.
Whereas now it's like, it is very clear that has been an entree to people into listening to what my heart says, rather than what the guy behind the keyboard does.
Right. Yeah, well, there are unsung talents with you guys. When you guys do the Strange Love performance, it's a very close dedication to that band. The authenticity of that band. And
Mhm.
so when you hear your individual projects outside, I mean, Leo's got a vastly different set of interests that he oftentimes will perform. His own music is very heavy and theatrical and more metal than
Sure.
industrial.
It's
Pop.
yeah, it's definitely new metal,
Sure,
and it's really good. I mean,
of course.
I have immense respect for Leo. Don't get me wrong. I'm not disparaging Leo in any
No,
sense in any of this conversation.
even if I try to get you to, I know you wouldn't. So that's okay.
No, you could.
Yeah.
You just have to find the right topic.
No,
I mean,
and
Leo's
and
insane.
and Brent
So,
too. Yeah. Well, he would be the
oh,
first to
Brent,
say that.
no, the interesting thing about Strangelove, and as I say, I'd like to talk more about my music, but the interesting thing about Strangelove is that we're a balance of very different characters. Like, Brent always in sound checks always references the Beatles, right? It's an easy one, but it's a nice one to sort of like, it's a nice and a good reference point. It's like the Beatles were balanced characteristics. Whenever you reach a band, and you've been in so many bands, you'll know this. If you have a quiet one, a responsible one, a wise one, a jester one, that it balances itself out. And if you can find that balance, then the band will survive, because if there's one that needs to be loud all the time, and I won't mention any names, Leo is very loud all the time, you want somebody who's very quiet all the time. It's a balance. So, you've got James very quiet, Leo's very loud,
Mhm.
and we are very tolerant to be able to put up with each other
Yeah.
and our foibles. And if you can do that, you'll maintain this sort of like thing. So it's actually the majority of the time very fun and easy to tour with Strangelove. And I've been in bands where it really isn't. Like,
Sure.
I mean, I was in a band where there were four alphas in the band, and we were always trying to vie for attention and vie for whatever, and it wore everybody out, and
Yeah.
everybody hated each other,
Sure.
and it's difficult to tour with that. And it's difficult if you're not focused on all of you reaching the same goal. Everybody's pulling in different directions, and then it falls apart, and it shows on stage, and it shows when you're talking to people, it shows in every scenario, and it doesn't work out.
The
you know
Beatles analogy is perfect that way, because they each of those men stood on their own. Musically, they brought a different sort of ingredient, to that mix. The detrimental things were the peripherals, right? I mean, they always talk about the Yoko factor.
right.
Uh, with your original music, you mentioned having been in a lot of other bands. And on One Tatame, on the new record, are you performing all the instruments on that?
So mostly yes. I
Okay.
mean, I'd say there are Chris Olivas is on a couple, only because I couldn't. You wouldn't give me your number, Kevin, so I just used Chris because I mean he's number one, obviously, and it just seemed appropriate because I travel with him. And I also have David J from Bauhaus,
Okay.
Mike
Wow.
Garson from Bowie's band, who played, the very famous Aladdin Sane solo, which is the greatest piece of rock and roll piano in the history of rock and roll. He's playing on my record. I mean,
Wow.
that blows my mind every time I think about it. Carmine Rojas, who plays bass on three songs actually. He's a good friend. I really
Wow.
really like Carmine. And young lady called Ashley Ross, who's played violin on a couple of. There's a lot of string arrangements on this record. So
Really? Okay.
Ashley plays on a couple of them. She plays violin, and then I sort of multi-tracked her and got her to replay it. And then my daughter sings on three songs.
No kidding. Wow. Your daughter is absolutely beautiful too, man. What a gift.
She's lovely. She's singing. Well, she's just finished singing. She's probably in the party now, but she can. I mean, her voice is. She's very well trained, and her voice is very pure and little, and I love that. So
Sure.
when you hear her on the record, it's just this beautiful innocence, and the record, especially the song "Malicious Intent," which is probably my most, as I say, angry song. Her joining me on the chorus is it was important for me to have her on that because the anger and the vitriol that I felt towards this individual who gets to be around her, which is the thing that makes me angry. It's not about the ex-wife. It
Yeah.
is the fact that he is in her periphery. Now, the fact that she's singing on that focuses my mind on the fact that she is an innocent in this context. And I have to remember that, even in the midst of all this vitriol and anger, that I can't allow my righteous, vehement vitriol to spill over into her life. So it's a counterweight to my anger, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. And she finishes the song, like her voice, little voice, finishes the song. It's a reminder to me.
Well, it's certainly a healing moment. That catharsis is part of it. And I would imagine it's still going to take time to let go of some of that, but this will be helpful. And
I, I
maybe you never
can't,
will, right?
well, I can't imagine what I'm going to do the next time I see him.
Yeah.
I've been taking boxing, Kevin.
Have you? Yeah. Well, unfortunately, because your daughter's involved, right? I mean, the things that your primal instincts want to do, you wouldn't allow yourself to do it. As much a
Well,
gentleman.
I wouldn't allow them in her presence.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just knowing that the eventual outcome, from that would just it it might taint the relationship you have with her, right?
Well,
I just objectively because I really care about you, uh, and I can also completely put myself in your shoes, and I think that it would be hard for me not. I mean, I would plan all those things for sure. I would plot ways to just make really fiery deaths happen, but at the end of the day, your daughter to see that you can
that
be
side of me. No, I
the
know.
but the bigger man, right? I mean, to figure out to see that, okay, my dad has probably been dealt the most difficult hand possible, right? And to see that he put this in a creative way to release this in an artistic form rather than a physical, I think
Absolutely.
that's an impressive, outcome for you. So I kudos to you, man.
Well, that's always how I deal with emotions, especially negative emotions, because I'm not very good at being angry. I don't feel angry at anybody in most contexts. What I feel is I feel curious. I've always sort of ascribed a little bit to the Buddhist frame of mind, which is that you must experience everything. You must experience the anger. You must experience the joy, but you must always observe it from a perspective of eternity. So when you're in this like desperately dire misery, you can always remove yourself and observe yourself experiencing it and experience it as a learning process into developing a deeper understanding of yourself.
Yeah,
And in some ways, that's why Honne Tatame. Can I explain to you the title? So the
please.
Japanese are very thoughtful people, obviously, as everybody knows. And Honne means the presentation that you give to the world. Sorry, the presentation of yourself, your true desires, your true needs that exist within you and are part of you. Tatame is the expression of the face you wish the world to see. So basically, it's like it's me, an Instagram version of me. And I feel like in this day and age, and in my situation, it's a very pertinent duality to approach, because I realize that in the process of Elysium, which is, as I say, probably part one of this two-part thing, I lived a lot of that in public, out loud, in a very sort of like scream it from the rooftops, this is my love, this is my cherished moment, this is all these things. And my it aligned with how I felt inside.
Yeah.
Now, Honne Tatame as an album, as such, is me trying to dig out what the real thing is from how the presentation was. And there's an almost like what's the word? Oh God. Superficial aspect to, to doing that. It's like living your life in a public context. You
Absolutely.
have to be superficial. You have to be a slight amount narcissistic. You have to put your face out there. You have to talk. You have to talk to your audience like they're your friends. You have to, present yourself. You have to rely in some ways. I mean, it's like you have to rely on your physical. I mean, I never even thought about this before my ex, actually, the one that I talked about in Elysium. She always wanted to see pictures of me on Instagram, for example. I never even wanted to post stuff like that, because it's not how I feel. I don't want to go, hey, look at me, I'm pretty. And I'm a good
Yeah.
looking guy. I mean, people have told me that. I don't, but it doesn't mean anything to me.
It doesn't
It
mean
just,
anything to them either. It's just false words, but that's okay.
this interview is over.
I,
but
you know I
you're
love you.
so, it never occurred to me that that was important.
Yeah.
And then it became, and then the more you do, the more you're fed by that monster. And it's like how I explain it to my daughter. It's like she's curious. She wants to know, why can't I have a phone? Why can't I be on social media? I'm like, well, look, go on social media and you post a picture and you get 10,000 likes and everybody's saying, hey, you're a good looking guy, good looking girl, and your music is great. And then the next day you take a picture and you go, oh, I'm really beautiful. Check this out. Felt cute. Might delete later. Put it up. 3 likes, and you go, well, I've lost my looks and nobody cares anymore.
Right.
And your entire being is
Right.
controlled by an algorithm that isn't even personal. It's got
Mhm.
nothing to do with the people involved, and it's got nothing to do with anything other than what's being fed into this abstract conceptual algorithm. It doesn't mean anything. We live in that sort of world. I mean, the last song on the record, Lights Out, deals with that to a degree. It's like everything has been sucked away from the real human experience. And the chorus goes, and when all the love has gone, will the last one on this world please turn the lights out? And it can feel that way sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not connected with people unless I'm talking to them directly, and I'm not really even connected with you.
Sure.
Ceci n'est pas Kevin Metal, like it's you, but it's an image on a screen. I mean, this
Right.
is where we are.
I just had that conversation with my son last night. He's on a flight right now back to Thailand, where his world is completely different than it was when he lived here in the U.S. And my son is a little bit older, obviously, than your daughter. But as parents, we watch our kids develop relationships through screens, right? Uh, what really builds stronger connections between people, if it's not tactical, it's not physical touch, but being able to have this where we can look each other in the eye and share air, that's an important thing. That to just be in the presence of someone is a really important part about, in terms of developing connection with humans. And there's a piece missing. And I'm not then just talking about kids and teenagers and generations that have come up in this environment, but now we look at adults and we look at people that you and I share space with a lot when we're on stage, and we have the superficiality of being on stage, and we might really project a connection with them. And I know for me, and I bet you would agree, there is something really special about the air that's shared in a room where you're on stage and you're performing and they're receiving and they're giving back this energy.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a missing piece in a lot of adult relationships that I see that has really been perpetuated from media. I think in society in general, there is a connection that is missing. And how do we repair that? That's what I'm curious about. I want to know.
One of the things that I know you do after flock shows and that we do, and this sometimes has a really big, goes a long way towards kind of addressing that to a degree. Like as you mentioned, we have our big Denver contingent, and
Mhm.
when and we'll stay with them. We'll go and we'll stay with them a day before we have a show and all this sort of
Yeah.
stuff. But we do the meet and greets, right? Which is after the shows. It's a free event for everybody that comes to see the show. They get to take photographs and we sign body parts and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wonderful thing because it's trying to take away some of that disingenuous disconnect. And when you do connect, I mean, it's not always that you do because we meet hundreds and hundreds
Right.
of people at these things. And I know you come to the front of the stage and you chat with people, you make a lot more of a one-on-one connection because it's only really you. Whereas with us, for Strangelove, it's a five-person, thing. But then people get the opportunity to connect a little bit. And once one in every 100 people you really become friends with.
Yeah.
And I think that the bridge of that is the music, right? And then for me, I mean, I'm going out all the time I'm just trying to sell my music,
Yeah.
obviously, at the back. So when I do connect with somebody, they know, and this is an interesting thing, and this is, probably goes against all the marketing advice you get. They know that if we have a good conversation and that we have a mutual attraction, I don't mean a sexual attraction, I
Right.
just
Yeah.
a conversational and personable, ease of saying, I know that when I play them my music, they're going to understand what that is. So
Right.
that that is an interesting thing for me because a lot of people that can connect with me through my music have given me very highly personal experiences they've had with my music,
Really?
which means that they do sort of have an understanding, a, an iota of understanding of me,
Yeah.
because I write about what I know, and you can hear that inside of everything that I do because I'm playing all the instruments too.
Right.
So the emotive content of that must be pretty thick, I imagine, for somebody who doesn't know me. And they always expect it to be fine, and they've listened to it and they'll go, oh, it's fine. Some of
Right.
them go, no, this is great. It's the greatest thing I've ever heard. And those are the people I feel connected with. So when I meet with them the next time we're in town, it's very easy to have a conversation. So the music is the bridge for me.
Nice.
And I feel like that it's the only way that I can communicate effectively. I mean, I'm garrulous and articulate and all those things, but the effective communication of ideas and the genuine sentiment of the heart comes through those songs. And then all the rest of this nonsense that I blah, blah, blah about is just nonsense and frivolous. So I don't know. I don't know whether that answered your question
I
or if
think it
that was
does.
even a
I
question.
mean, that puts you in a position where you're extremely vulnerable, because not only have you articulated your feelings and your thoughts and true feelings, life experiences that have been favorable and not so, and you're putting it out there, and it's not that you just put it out in the ether and don't receive anything back, but if there's an expectation that they're going to internalize that stuff, process it, and then give it back. Uh, and you said that there had been times where people were really profoundly impacted. So
Mhm.
tell me about some of those experiences. You don't have to give details of people, but
Oh,
some
I
songs that,
wouldn't tell you names, but I've had emails from people who have. I mean, it's all the disappointing thing. It's not disappointing. It's very flattering. But the interesting thing is that the things I've written that have been very sad and about horribly deep and negative experiences, those are the ones that tend to connect most that
of
I write.
course.
And I've had people say that I saved them from thoughts of suicide through songs. Because what it tends to be, it's a communal feeling that you're not the only one that's felt this way. It's not you that's broken. It is. It's like people who listen to Morrissey, right? Morrissey writes these funny, miserable, prose poems, and everybody goes, well, oh, okay, it's okay to feel bad. It's okay
Yeah.
to feel, that the world is unfair. It's okay to feel that all these things are going wrong. And my stuff tends to be very, very nuanced and specific to an experience that I've had, because I've written 400 songs. So I can't say, baby, I love you, la, la, la anymore,
Right.
because I've done it 400 songs ago.
Right.
So you get to these very nuanced experiences, and what you realize is that no matter how nuanced and specific your experiences, there are 7 billion people on the world. So a hefty percentage of them have had that experience.
Right.
And some of them like new wave music. So
Right. Yeah. Would you consider the new record predominantly new wave vibe?
I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
Okay.
art rock, new wave. I mean, Bowie is always a big touchstone when people describe it. I'd
Yeah.
say The Cure is in there. I'd say there's maybe a little bit Depeche Mode. I mean, obviously, there's got to be a bit of Bowie, because there's a bit of, I shouldn't say this because they're not very cool, but it's a bit of U2 in there too.
Mm, I
Because,
think,
I mean, I used to be a huge U2 fan until the end of Zooropa. After Zooropa, I didn't really connect so much with any of the other songs, but I'm flattered by that comparison. I mean, my person who told me that this song is really U2, he just did a mix of it. He worked with U2. Like
yeah,
he produced one of their records, so he probably knows what he's talking about.
sure. No, I've heard a lot of people dog on you too, and it's funny to me when I hear people dog Bono, and I think, yeah, well, he's so horrible, contributing to save a billion people from famine, changing the world in a
It's
positive
not. It's
way.
not. It's not his intentions. It's his persona that people
Yeah,
don't like. And
sure.
if you've ever read his book, have you read his book?
I've not.
I recommend it.
Yeah.
It really reset my opinion on him a little bit, because I haven't been a fan since Zuropa was it, and then I listened to some of the other albums, and I was just like, well, they're just really, lost me
Sure.
musically. And I never hated Bono. I thought, he's fine. But reading the book, I've had a newfound deep respect for him. He's a great writer, and his life has been genuinely spectacular.
Yeah.
And he holds himself to task for all of the reasons he's been criticized, and he's very self-aware, and he can afford to be. He's a multimillionaire,
Of
so
course.
whatever.
Well, I mean, that I think a lot of that sort of emotional maturity, we can see a lot of people that should have evolved that way, and he had every reason maybe not to, right? He really
Sure.
could be smug and pompous and have hubris and not care what all those people think. But if he really has held himself to task, yeah, I think that's commendable. I've seen them several times. I went to the U2 show at Sphere last year, and
Okay.
uh, one thing that I really liked about it, and if you've seen, I mean, way back in the days of the early '80s when U2 did the show at Red Rocks, right? And they were playing Sunday Bloody Sunday, and
Mhm.
he's carrying the flag and he's stamping out there, and he was this rock icon that really stayed in that position for probably 15 years, right, or 20 years,
Right.
and then a lot of his bravado came out, and he was on a soapbox, and people got turned off by that piece. But the show at the Sphere, everything about the Sphere performance is about the visual surroundings, everything peripheral. And the
Right.
band is on a tiny square stage with no props. There are no monitors on the stage. There's a video screen that the entire stage, the stage is square, no drum riser, and it's a
Mhm.
video screen. But for the most part, they're four guys standing on stage as if they're in a club the size of the rickshaw. And it
Right.
just happens to be that they're projecting all this dynamic, magnificent thing around it. And you lose the concept of Bono being larger than life there. It was
Right.
really, it was great. I loved that. And the visual part of the experience about that was more, I mean, as a musician, I really vibed on Adam Clayton, on the bass player. I got more respect and admiration for him. But in terms of like Bono, I liked the fact that there were four guys at an equal parts level, there. And um, I know I've skirted a little bit away from you, And ogni tanto.
Get it back to me. Why are we talking about
Well,
Bono?
let's talk about ego again. Okay, so back to back to the ego.
No,
No,
I watched them with Quincy Jones. Actually, weirdly enough, I was just sat next to Quincy Jones, and I watched them at Anaheim Angels Stadium, and I felt exactly the same thing. Bono was one of the most engaging, personal, intimate performers I've ever seen.
yeah,
He wasn't gigantic. He was
right,
brilliant at looking like he was singing to you
right.
only.
Isn't that
And
mad?
I hear you on that 100%.
I see you guys doing that too, even in the Strangelove realm. I mean, we don't have to touch more on Strangelove, but I do see that there's a lot of eye contact that's made. You know, it's
Oh
not.
yeah, we definitely. I mean, certainly Leo. You know, if he sees a cute girl in the audience, there's eye contact all night. But I mean, with me, I mean, I want to make everybody feel like they're at the concert and the concert is
Yeah,
for them, because we are a service industry as a tribute band. It isn't an ego service project, because we're serving other people's Depeche Mode love.
right,
I am serving other people's love for David Bowie. So I have to, because of my huge ego, that is definitely my driving force, I have to dissociate myself from the persona of the Strangelove band
sure,
and the persona of Bowie. I'm very grateful that people come to me through those engines,
sure.
because otherwise nobody would be interested in me. But I do have to dissociate. It's a little bit of a strange psychological somersault that I have to make with those things, and I think Leo has to do the same. But Leo's, I mean, Leo. It's funny because I don't think Leo's had as long or as multi part partite career as I have. So I don't think he's performed as big shows before.
Mm,
And this is his only experience of this size of show, enacting this role.
right.
So I'd be interested to see, because Strangelove has recorded an original song, right?
Coming out this next week, right?
Coming out on the 15th. Yeah,
Yes, correct.
we're
Yeah,
performing it at. I'm performing songs from my new album at the same show. We're playing Long Beach Gaslamp,
that's
and
right.
we're also in my set going to perform the Strangelove song, because I'm supporting Strangelove, and they're going to bring Leo up, and we're going to play the Strangelove song before the Strangelove set. So it'd be interesting to see Leo as Leo, because I've never
Right.
seen him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the experience that I've had, because I've done several tributes as well, and I've also seen the backlash that comes from musicians that have made a lifetime career out of playing anything from bar bands to stadium bands and everything in between, where they'll dog the tribute scene. I believe a lot of it is because they see the fanaticism from the crowd. That the shows are selling out, that the merchandise is selling, and they're pissed because they don't have that kind of support in their own original music. And a lot of times that's the case. But to me, when I hear the backlash about, oh, it's just a tribute, and I think, well, you don't hear that about, say, Hamilton traveling through Portland, Oregon, when
No,
they started New York.
or Mozart
Exactly, a
symphony.
classical performance, correct, right, so, yeah, Mozart is no longer alive, but there are many, orchestras out there performing, like Mozart, and there's no backlash about, "Oh, how could you go out and do those songs?" What a travesty. It's a little silly, right? And perhaps.
It is very silly, and that's why after so many years, after 10 years of doing something which isn't, I mean, Depeche Mode. I love Depeche Mode, of course.
Sure,
Now, I mean, I'm very well aware of them. I never was a fan before I joined Strangelove, and of course, it's not my music, and it's not even me up front. So but I understand what a service it is to people who are big Depeche Mode
of
fans, and
course.
it's an honor to be able to bring that to them,
Sure,
because you see the audience when just can't get enough riff comes, and then
right,
you see the hands waving every
right,
single show for Never Let Me Down Again, and it's the I much as I do believe in my own music, and I have played large shows before, that togetherness belongs to Depeche Mode.
nice. Yeah,
And it's funny because Bowie there's a degree of that too with Bowie. When I do Heroes, everybody's
yeah,
clapping, and there's also that. So these are togetherness bands, I think. I mean, there's a lot of romance in Depeche Mode too. So I'm beginning to understand this, and it is an honor to be given the opportunity to do those songs for people and to be praised for it, paid for it. It's wonderful, and then of course for them to come along and be interested in my stuff too, which is an added bonus.
Absolutely.
So it's an effective engine for being a live musician, and I think we do our best. And I don't think anybody would say that we're, dishonoring the legacy or anything. I mean, some people probably do, but it's a vast minority if it does happen.
What would Martin Gore say about Strangelove?
Martin Gore has made comment about Strangelove in the past. He he talks about going through YouTube and watching us and finding it fascinating and going down the rabbit hole. And then Dave Gahan's actually teased him about it on an interview. Yeah. So
Nice.
Martin's also, I did a remix of Martin's daughter's song.
Okay.
And he didn't say anything specific about it, but he was generally accepting of it, said it was good.
Nice.
And he's communicated with also Brent about something we've got in the pipeline, which has taken a while. So I won't mention it until it happens.
Okay. Guys, if you're watching this and you're not on YouTube, I just realized there have been several comments on Instagram. And so I'm sorry I didn't respond to those. I don't get notified of those comments. I see everything that comes through YouTube. So if you've not done so, go to youtube.com/@accesskevin. You'll see the feed there. You can chat. And so in the chat, I'm seeing a couple comments. So you mentioned original music. There's a Beauty and Chaos collaboration that you did with Michael Saravallo, right? So
Yes.
Bunny Man drummer, it's Dirk. Dirk, my buddy.
Doucette.
Dirk Doucette. Yep. He said he did a video with Julian last year with Beauty and Chaos.
Yes, I think, did he do the Leo one as well?
Probably.
Yeah, because I brought Leo and Brenton to the Beauty and Chaos family because I did a whole load of remixes for them. When I was working with David J, I produced an album which has David J on it. This is a while back, and I hung out with Michael a little bit and did 4 remixes for the first remix album, Beauty and Chaos remix album, because I really wanted to do Wayne Hussey, because Wayne Hussey's a big, tent pole for me back in the day. And obviously he's loved it, met him, he was really, really into it. So I did one for his wife. And then I did another couple for that. Then
Tish?
Sorry?
Was that Tish?
Tish.
Yeah.
No, not Tish. Well, no, I did do one for Tish, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Cynthia Hussey.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I'm sorry.
So I did Tish, I did Cynthia Hussey, I did Wayne Hussey, did a couple of more remixes. I don't remember, I'm afraid, off the top of my head. And then Michael Saravallo, who's a wonderful guy, really, really, really like him, one of the real true gems of the business, right?
You bet.
So he then really wanted me to do a song because he realized that, my songs are quite poppy comparative to Beauty and Chaos's normal kind of dark gothy feel. So he wanted to just see what it happened, and the song we came up with was very well received. He liked it, so he took my advice. I said, "Look, you've got to get Leo in. You've got to get Leo in. He's got this voice you wouldn't expect."
Right.
Because outside of, I mean, I don't know if you haven't heard. You've heard Sublime, have you? The Strangelove song.
I have not yet.
Have you heard Echo and the Angels, the Beauty and Chaos song?
Yes, I have heard that. Yep.
Okay, so his voice is entirely dissimilar to Dave Gahan's
It's
voice,
amazing.
right?
Yep.
I mean, it's beautiful. It's like a soaring, what's the guy from Placebo or almost the guy from Linkin Park. Chester, right? Chester Bennington. It's like that style. Nobody would expect it. So I said, look, Michael, just send him a track. If it works, great. If it doesn't, and of course, Leo turns out the best song on the album.
Right.
And I'm like, much better than mine. And I'm like going, wow, I should not have done that. No, I'm kidding. Of course, I wish him all the best success. And then I said, look, you have to get Brent in, because Brent's this brilliant producer and has a wonderful voice too.
Oh my
and I'm
God.
afraid Brent didn't have time for the vocal, but he did a remix, which is, in my head, one of the best remixes on the remix record.
Remix. Yeah, no, fantastic. Yeah, Brent is on again. I mean, his opera is unreal. His voice is incredible that way. But
Sure.
So Debbie, my dear friend Debbie here in the chat had mentioned that she was just at your show at the Fuel Room in Illinois, just outside of Chicago on I think it was Saturday, right?
Impact Room, yeah.
Yes. she also said she had trouble with Zooropa and beyond. Yeah, it sounded like there was some technical crazy things going on in that room. But did you feel like the room was cursed on Saturday night?
The computer dropped off the computer stand, so it just shut, flopped off the stand and fell on the floor, and we just had to restart the show, which was a real pain. Uh,
Ghosts.
and we were watching like this. The stage. It's quite funny. The stage was there were these two water bottles in the middle of the stage, just sort of like dancing with each other
Ooh,
every time the subs were going. So
God, yeah,
I should have anticipated that. It was my fault. I didn't stack the you know the stand up against the wall. I should have done that. But,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
man. Like
bit crazy.
that's a well, you. I don't know about that one in particular, but you and I both understand the importance of just being able to roll, go with flow, and the show must go on. Kind of,
No, we were fine. I mean, it was a two minute transition. We just restarted the song and got on with it. Because I mean, I've panicked when I was in my teens. I'd panic if a song went wrong. Nowadays, but
yeah, right.
it's fine. I'll do a little dance. Everybody will laugh and it'll be fine.
You've got your banter ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah, of
Let,
course, always.
let's go back to One Tatame. A few of the songs that you had talked about. Do you have a song in particular that you feel like is the standout single?
The single is probably, I mean, it's split really. Actually, there's three songs on the album that people have really, really, really related. There are four singles from the
Okay.
album that people have really related to. There's one is the first proper song on the record, which is called Forever,
Okay.
Forever. But it was the Valentine's song, and people really love that song. It wasn't going to go on the record because it's a positive, hopeful, happy love song, and it doesn't fit with the rest of the album, which is downbeat and breakup album. But everybody loves that song.
Hmm.
I got a lot of nice plays for it, got some playlists and all that sort of stuff. Then there's a song called Sufferation, which people really like. It's kind of a shoegazy one. Then there's one called Fall Apart, which was kind of a hit a while back. It was released a while back,
Oh, it was okay.
and it's an electronic song. It sounds a bit sort of like The Weekend, honestly. I mean, hate to admit it, but it does sound a bit like that song. And then a song called Fisk, which has been with me for many, 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 many years, and a lot of people like that a lot. Then the closer for the record, Lights Out. That's the big opus that people who are into music, certainly Bowie fans that have heard that song, they recognize Mike's piano because it's
Hmm.
all the way through the song, and Mike's piano just will either ruin your song or make it the best song ever. And he made my song the best song ever. So I'm really grateful to Mike Garson for that, because and Carmine too. I mean, Carmine and Mike. Can you think of this? I got a message from Erdal Ksilke this morning, who was commenting on my American Songwriter article, and I'm like, that guy produced the very first Bowie album that I ever bought, Never Let Me Down,
Wow.
and Mike Garson played on my record, Kevin.
Wow.
This is like I grew up with Aladdin Sane, listening
Right.
to that piano, and I stuck at playing the piano. I came back to the piano as a rock instrument, listening to Mike Garson,
Wow.
and he put piano on two of my songs.
That's so great, man.
It's insane.
And you mentioned Carmine too. I mean, Carmine's been on the show, phenomenal human being. Of course, he's an amazing musician, but his spirit is one that I wish, a million people had, because he in an hour's conversation, you feel like a better human being after talking to him.
Oh, sure, absolutely. He's
Yeah.
he's the most lovely guy, isn't he?
I
He's
love
a
him.
he's a friend. I mean,
Yeah.
we worked together, and then he did a couple of songs with me a while back, and then we just like to hang out. I mean, it's not about. I mean, of course, it's about the music, but
Sure.
then we'll have dinner and go on a road trip, because the guy's just lovely.
Yeah. That's great.
He is grace.
Yeah. That's true. Yep. So with those qualities, I've asked a lot of people on the show. I love to sort of, find from people. You're a father, you are a multi-talented instrumentalist, and you're well read and traveled. You've done a lot.
Hmm.
What is it that Julian Shah-Tayler should be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be?
Phoebe.
Hmm, your
I
daughter.
think if I can. help her become an excellent human being, I don't people don't really understand this. I don't care to be remembered. It doesn't really matter. There's the universe is how many billion years old. The Earth
Right.
is how many billion years old. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I have a strange belief that energy never dies. I don't think in terms of I need my ego to return to the Earth. I don't think it's that at all. What I think, I just want, if I leave something behind that people care for and is worthwhile, I want it to be Phoebe. And so I think she's a lovely kid, and I think she's doing. I'm doing the best I can with her.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you could hope. She is a lovely kid. I've only met her a couple of times, but I think she's a delightful human being. She's been through the ringer, as we both know, and to see children as resilient as she's been, I think is important. As a father, I mean, the most important thing for me, right, is that I can make the best effort to provide guidance, maybe avoid a couple of speed bumps, but at the end of the day, just provide love and compassion for my kids. And at the end of the day, that's all I can hope for. Um, what was your relationship with your parents? Was it similar?
I went to boarding school, so I didn't really see them that much. I
Didn't.
mean,
Okay.
honestly. So, and I mean, they were. I don't have any complaints.
Mhm.
My grandmother was the sort of main. I guess she raised me mostly because my mother was working a lot, so they looked after me. But then they sent me to boarding school. So I think I had to learn very quickly how to survive without being too dramatic about it in that
Sure.
sense, because
Yeah.
I don't feel badly about my boarding school experience or my parents or my
Yeah.
parenting. I feel like I raised myself a lot. I
Yeah.
read a lot and I traveled a lot. And the more you meet people and the more you read, the more, because you meet people when you read,
Right.
because you meet them in their minds, right?
Yeah.
And when you listen to music, like John Lennon was my dad, really, because I
Mm.
listened to John Lennon and his advice and what he said in his songs, which was vulnerable, right? He made vulnerable songs. Help, I need somebody. And it's very simple. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. It's very simple. It's vulnerable. And you learn from that vulnerability to be that person and to be the person who accepts other people for their flaws and their ungracious things that they do. And I'm a grumpy old sod. I am. I'm very judgmental of people, but the point is, I can accept them for all their failings, and
Mm.
I think people have lots of failings, but I love them nonetheless.
Right. Well, I know a lot of people that have given up faith in people, and sometimes I feel like that's a real travesty because I
Well,
think,
you're not that person, so that doesn't matter.
well, my hope was as my older son would see he would be disappointed or disillusioned because he would see that he may have been optimistic about the world and then run into a lot as adults that he saw that, oh wow, these people are they not only grumpy but they're miserable and they're not contributing to society, their lives themselves, they're not making an effort to change, they just want to make sure everybody around them is miserable. His perspective was skewed or at least soured because he had a small circle of influence, a small perspective. As he's traveled, he's changed and adjusted that perspective quite a bit, and I'm grateful for that. I would think that, and I'm hopeful, just like in your promotion about this new record, I'm still full of hope. I do believe that people inherently are good, and that for the most part, love and kindness and compassion is what's going to take us out at the other end. And hopefully the catharsis for One Tatame has been one that you could put aside some of the challenges that relationships provided you and gotten you to the other side where you did
Oh, sure.
you
I
didn't
feel good. I feel good, Kevin. I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
happy and positive and hopeful. And it is catharsis. It is getting all those yucky feelings and putting them into a form so I can observe them.
yeah,
That's what I was talking about earlier. I'm like, I have to be able to I have to experience it, take a step back and observe it and say, okay, well, that was a learning experience. I will try my best not to be that person again. not to lose that hope again, not to do these things. It, you know, and I've always been into like Disintegration and albums like that, where it is pretty down. I
Mm-hmm.
like those records. I like listening to them. I like the sonic palette. I like the sentiment of Disintegration. But the point is, you know, then I mean, Robert didn't fall apart. Then it came to Friday, and he was in love.
Right. That's fine. Yeah. Well, what are we doing with One Tatame? What are you going to do with the record?
Well, I am promoting it. Obviously, I'm going to play a show on the 15th, which
Mhm.
will be opening for Strange Love at the Gas Lamp. And then I am going to play a lot of smaller shows in LA. I'm going to, you know, petition Strange Love to open a few times more. I've
Okay.
actually then got a greatest hits coming out by the end of the year, which I've
Okay.
been working on for a while. It's a remix album of all my greatest hits. So Honne Tatame is on CD. I'm going to ship it out to people who are fans. I
Okay.
am going to play it out live. Because we're so busy with Strange Love, it's going to mostly be in LA.
Okay.
I don't think I'm going to be able to tour it as traditional
Mhm.
touring is going to be. But I know from all the interviews that I've had and for all the people who are taking interest that it's one of the albums of my career and that people genuinely love it. Musician types. So whether that translates into sales, I don't know whether there's even such thing as sales in this world,
Sure.
but it's available for sale at all the Strangelove shows, and I can talk people into buying it. So hopefully I'll sell CDs.
Streaming platforms too. They'll be able
All
to.
the streaming platforms,
Okay.
everything. It's coming out on, as I say, Friday. So
Yeah, March 7th.
that,
I'm going to be playing right up the street from you in Anaheim at the House of Blues the night that you have your show, the Gas Lamp, unfortunately. So
oh,
I can't
oh,
believe I'll be that close and not get to see you. But
will you be around for a little bit? You should come and visit.
I would love to. I'm flying my mother out from Montana and my girlfriend down from Vancouver, as you know. Yeah, she said hello as well. But we're going to spend just the next day in California and then heading onward. So, um,
Well,
but
my mother's in town too, so
really,
we could have like a big collection of a love collection if you wanted, but it's up to you.
well, we'll chat about those things off air. But I like that you get a chance to be with your mom too.
Yeah,
And congratulations on this release and
thanks.
also on the new Strange Love release. I'm excited for you guys to have some original material that you get to put out there.
I think you'll
And
like it.
I'm really grateful, to get to spend more time with you than just a few minutes here and there backstage. The rickshaw was not the right place to do this. This is a more
No.
appropriate. But and kudos to your daughter's school there for allowing you the facility to be able to chat from the church.
This isn't the school. This is the church. This is All Saints Pasadena, the most liberal of all the churches. They
Nice.
welcome everyone here, which is a very nice sentiment. This
Uh,
goes against the general political climate, but
yeah.
that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the truth, man. Absolutely. Guys, if you got here late, if you go to Julian Shah-Tayler, you can see the spelling down below. If you go to julianshahtayler.com, you're going to find out all about Julian's previous releases. You'll see his new record, Honne Tatame, is going to be out March 7th on Friday, March 7th. And if you go to this link below, go to youtube.com/@accesskevin. You can subscribe to this channel, hit the bell, be notified about upcoming episodes. I'll be back on March 6th on Thursday with Marina V and on March 10th with Eva Gardner from Pink. So definitely come back at the same time, 5 o'clock Pacific, and go out and support Julian and all of his endeavors. Grab Honne Tatame, buy all the merchandise, and make sure that you don't give Christopher any ego strokes that he doesn't deserve. So, yeah,
Oh, and they can, people can order the pre-release CD anytime. I'm gonna send you a link to the YouTube. There's a YouTube playlist which is just
fantastic.
one single thing. The whole album is on that. I'll send it to you as soon as I can.
Please do. And then if we get that, if you can get it to me shortly, I'll have it in the show notes. So, guys, if you go to accesskevin.com, this link below, and you'll see a link to Julian's episode here, you'll see a video with the pre release and the playlist. And as they get released, they'll just funnel right into that. Thank you guys all for contributing to the chat. I'm grateful that you're all here. And Julian, thank Phoebe for sharing her dad with us this afternoon. So I look forward to seeing you soon, buddy.
Kevin,
Congratulations.
it feels weird. It feels weird to be talking to you without the big, gigantic bear hug that
Uh,
normally happens
the
first.
the hug is happening the moment we see each other. Until then, man, I'm just gonna throw you a virtual one. Okay. So yeah. Awesome.
All righty.
In the meantime,
See you
make
later.
sure Phoebe can give you one for me. All right.
Oh, that'll be nice.
All
All
right.
right.
Take care, buddy. Take care.
Speak to you soon.